Hey, today I want to talk about lived experiences and why it builds trust. So, if you're new here, thanks for joining us. This is the Be Fabbo Podcast. Love to see that some new people are finding us, and not because we're chasing them, but because you all are sharing about the podcast, and hopefully we're making an impact. And if you've been around for a while, again, thank you for your support. I absolutely adore and cannot share my appreciation and the privilege I have of sharing this space with you here on the podcast, all these episodes. That said, this is episode 126. So again, friends, podcasters, Be Fabbo podcasters, community, everyone that's here, you're welcome. And it's an honor. So let's talk about something I think that we get overlooked a lot. I think it's a conversation that I just had with somebody the other day, and I thought, okay, this is going to be a great podcast. So when I sat down and on the way home from that meeting, I literally just pulled over in a parking lot and shared in my notes on my phone and recorded pretty much what I wanted to say, get the notes down, because that's how I do things here. Right. My dyslexia, there's no typing, there's no writing. It's all voice to text. So again, if you're new here, you will hear me stutter a little bit and you might hear my voice go a little cracky. It's all part of my Parkinson's. My stuttering is just one of the ways I learn differently. And, I'm that neurodivergent person that is pushing their way into their mid 60s, carrying on. But when you're building something, whether you just started building it, you have been building it, and you're even rebuilding it, we spend so much time trying to learn more. We want to be qualified. We want to be more prepared. And then we miss the one thing that actually builds trust faster than everything else: what you've lived, the experiences that you've had, how you built your business from day one to day 999 and beyond, how you built your life and live your life around that, what you learned when you stumbled, when you got back up, when you had a setback and you had a comeback, what you've lived. Your lived experiences, my friends, are far better than some analog rhythm or some analytic, or this is what somebody said will get you more looks. This is somebody, if you talk about this and you have this offer, this will get you to grow your audience. No. Your lived experiences and sharing your story. Because somewhere along the way, we have been taught you have to have more experience. Where's your credentials? Show me your receipts, more proof, more social proof. And I guess in the world of online that we live in now, it's so easy to be fake and to not know what you're talking about. And I guess we need to have social proof. I'm not saying I disagree. Sometimes in coaching, I have coaching clients that have asked me to simply not say they were part of my coaching program, but afterwards, they will happily share. You have to respect that. You decide if that's the right client for you to work with or not. As a photographer, I've done plenty of, hey, you can't show these photos to anybody ever. And NDAs have a lifespan sometimes. So, imagine my book when I'm 75 and I'll talk about all the people I photographed that you did not know. Wouldn't that be a hoot? That'll be something to look forward to, right? But you have to have more experience. You have to have more credentials. Can you tell me how you did that? I want to verify it. I want to investigate it. And you need to have all these things before you can really show up, before people would trust you, before you're ready. Is this where I say fake it till you make it? How do we feel about that comment? Fake it till you make it. I do believe in saying yes if you don't know how to do something and you can figure it out, as long as it doesn't harm anybody along the way, right? But fake it till you make it, I think we all would be doing that every day, because I think every day we don't know everything. And every person we meet might come to us. I know in the wedding industry, people go, oh man, I've heard it all. I've seen it all. But have we? Have we really? Somebody's going to come and say, hey, I was at a wedding one time where the cake fell over and they had to go to the local grocery store and they had to do this, and this. But then the cake from the grocery store got in a car accident. So have you really seen and heard everything? Everybody's going to bring something different. So do we ever get totally prepared? Are we ever totally ready? Our lived experiences up to this moment, what we have lived. Because I think Deep in there lies the truth. People don't connect with what you've studied. They've connected with what you lived. I never went to a day of college. I barely got out of school. At 16, I begged to let me leave half a day to go be a photographer. And I was very honest. And I said, if you have me sit in these classes, I'm not gonna come. I'll just drop out. And at the time, the photography teacher, in high school, I've already been doing photography there's photos of me with a camera in my hand very young, but I started photographing people and I was getting paid to photograph people. When I was a freshman in high school, I was making 10, 15 bucks to photograph something for somebody. Did my first wedding at 16, friends, for a whopping $995. Spent more money getting the film developed, had to come home to my house. My dad was still alive at the time. I was on the kitchen table and I had all the negatives and I spent most of my money. I was like, okay, it'll cost me $100 for this. I ended up spending like $300 on the film processing, things that I learned, right? Lived experiences. So I knew that school was not for me. My learning disability held me back. I was not going to sit and read Catcher in the Rye or To Kill a Mockingbird. So my photography teacher at the time was married to the English teacher and told the English teacher, if you would let Bobbi do the audiobook of this, she wants to leave school half day. I made the arrangements. They called my parents and they said, if we don't let Bobbi do this, she's going to be a dropout. So I would leave school. I would show up in the morning, do those classes, read that, listen to the book, listen to whatever I had to do. I was gone by 11:30, off to the newspaper, where for the rest of the afternoon, I photographed high school sports for other high schools. I photographed, community get-togethers, town halls, and I had so many pictures above the fold. And I was getting $35 a pop for each photo at 16 and 17. I knew school was not for me. So it isn't what I studied or how somebody taught me. I learned on the go. I had a passion for it. I knew I could do it. I want people to connect with what I've lived and not what I've studied, because I haven't went to a school, photography school. I haven't went to speaking school. I haven't went to any coaching schools. I'm sharing my life experiences and I'm not doing harm to anyone in what I do. So there was no need to fake it to make it, because I do believe, saying yes to things and trying to figure out things for myself have got me to where I am. And I knew what I needed. I knew where I wanted to be. So all that to be said, your lived experiences, that's where your voice comes from. That's where your perspective comes from. That's where your ability to help someone becomes real. I can give you my lived experience. I can give you the value of sharing my story, of my struggles, of my setbacks and my comebacks, and how I navigated my life, and how I'm navigating through my career, and how I'm navigating now living with Parkinson's. Because when you've lived something, you don't just explain it, you understand it. And that doesn't mean you need that perfect story. I don't believe in perfect. Done is better than perfect. We strive to be imperfectly perfect, maybe, but I don't believe there's a perfect, because if there's something so perfect, I used to drive me crazy in the wedding when people would say to me, well, I just want to be the perfect day. And I'd be like, so wouldn't the perfect day be tomorrow when you wake up to the person you just married and you're ready to go? I think every day we can find perfection in that day, waking up, being who we want to be with, sharing a cup of coffee, sharing a jelly donut, anything, doing something by ourselves. I think that can all be part of our story, perfect or not. It doesn't mean that you have to have everything figured out to share your story, because I'll say it again, I believe we're always learning. So if we're waiting for us to be perfect and we're waiting of us to know everything before people invest in us, how are they going to invest in us? How would we invest in others? Because shouldn't we always be learning? Shouldn't we always be trying to find a way to give in a different way, to give meaning to what we're doing? And if I just went through this and I want to share with you, that's how referrals work. Oh, somebody says, oh, I just saw this movie, or I just ate at this restaurant. You really should try it. Was the restaurant perfect that day? Will the restaurant be perfect when you show up after giving the referral? It's all learning. It's all about the moment. So again, I don't believe you have to have a perfect story to share it. And I don't think you have everything figured out to also be able to share. But I do think it means you're willing to speak from where you've been, from where you are right now, from what you learned that got you here, and from what you're still navigating, and from what you're still working on, and from how you're wanting to continue to improve and grow. Because that's where trust is built. Don't forget, friends, in the show notes, I want you to join me over on Substack, because that's where I'm unpacking what you've lived becomes the foundation for what you build. And I go much deeper on that over on Substack. So there's lots of goodies over there for you. There's free and a paid version. I will leave the link in the show notes for you. I'd love to have you join me over there. Here's a truth moment for you, because here's what I hear from coaching clients, and here's what I see from just general conversations, or what I hear from general conversations. People waiting. They're waiting for the perfect moment. They're waiting for someday. They're waiting to be more ready to take the next step. They're trying to wait to start anything. They're waiting to be more polished and more certain, because that's what society has told us. If you're not perfect, don't try. If you're not ready, don't go out there. And again, are we ever going to be fully ready? Because the minute we get ready, something's going to change. The minute we get used to something, something changes. Oh my gosh, just think about Netflix. You get used to the menu the way that it is, and boom, there's a change. Talk about Apple and Android cell phone products. The minute you get used to your phone, here comes an update. So are we ever ready? But we need to be ready to the best of our ability and stay up to date and be ready for that change, and be ready to embrace that change, and be willing to, okay, this is what it is now. I'm ready for tomorrow. But in the meantime, I'm going to move forward with this, because I believe I can share. I believe I'm called to help. I believe I have something of value that will help you transform and move the needle in your business, and build a life in the business that you want, and build what matters most. So the truth is, are you already carrying what somebody else needs? Your lived experiences might just be exactly what somebody needs to hear to get them past a roadblock, because nobody's talking about it. Be the person that's talking about it. Be the person that says, oh my gosh, I struggle with this, and now I'm here. I share how I stutter and how I have to constantly stop and think sometimes before I speak and slow down. And now with Parkinson's, I have really had to learn that I have to be ready every day for what Parkinson's, whatever my symptoms are going to bring that day. If I ask you to sit with these questions, and if I ask you to really think about them, don't answer them now. You don't have to write them down. This is not homework. But I want you to really, really take this in. What have you lived that you're not giving enough credit to? What have you lived through? What have you done? What are your experiences that you're not giving enough credit to? Think about it. You had to learn to do something. You had to learn how to do it. Remember, maybe you were younger and you worked at McDonald's or something. You had to learn the cash register. You had to learn to give cash change back. Lord, we know we can't do that now. You had to learn how to ride your bike. You had to learn how to get your new phone. You had to learn how to drive your car. Tell the stories that go with that. I know they seem small and trite, but they are a part of your story. They're part of your character. They're about when you fall down, did you get back up? When you got frustrated, how did you handle it? What have you lived right now? What have you lived, your lived experiences that you're not giving enough credit to, that have helped shape who you are right now? What have you learned that could help someone else right now in this moment, that you don't even think anything about it? Because you learned how to do it, you got past it, and you don't really know. We are smarter and we know more than we give ourselves credit for, because we forget that we already know how to do something, but we forget the struggle that we might have had, or the ease that we might have had. I know there's a million different, online Kajabi, Thrivecart, Podia, all those things, and they all have a learning curve. So you might be really good at one of those systems, and you forgot the struggle that you had to be able to make it do what it does now. And if you're honest with yourself, how many of you use all those programs? How many of you use all those systems, and you're using it the way that it was intended, but you found a shortcut? You found something that made it work for you. Because I firmly believe that any system you have, it should work for you. You shouldn't be working for it, right? It should be able to do what you need it to do. But if you're honest, how many of you have manipulated it or MacGyvered it to make it do what you need it to do? It has more functions than you need, but the things that you use, you've got it to sing a different way. Share that story. Even though you're doing it as it wasn't meant to be, I believe that every single person does something differently. I can tell you from photography, I can put the same camera down, my camera down, with somebody else, and they use it in a totally different way. Same buttons and same dials, they have it set up differently. That's an experience. That's something that you lived, and that's something that you know. Share that. Something that you have done like this, that you forgot you knew how to do, will help somebody else right now. And then where are you holding back because you don't feel ready enough? Why don't you want to share what you know? Because you don't feel ready enough. Who's making you feel that way? What is it? What's holding you back from sharing your story? What's holding you back from growing yourself or taking that risk, being brave enough to take that risk, being open enough to take that risk? Because you don't think that you're ready. Sit with those questions. You don't need to become someone else to build something meaningful, impactful. You don't need to become somebody else to build what matters most. You don't need to be somebody else to show up for yourself or for others. You need to trust that what you have already lived and what you're living, these experiences have built your character, your integrity, your strength, your backbone. They've given it your heart, your soul. What you have lived through, the good, the bad, the ugly, the setback, the comeback, all of it, my friends, share that story. Your lived experiences are valuable because that's what builds connection and that's what builds trust. Continue building yourself. Continue working on yourself, but you are ready. Share what you know. Share what you're working on. Share what you want to learn, but share. Don't be afraid to share your lived experiences, my friends, because they matter and they're impactful. And that is how you continue to build trust. Stay Fabbo, my friends. Till next time.